Alrighty, so we're going to be talking about some shoreline features of the ocean. And some of those features are going to be caused by erosion, which we already talked about in Earth Science. And we're going to look at how waves and storms can actually change the shore itself, create sand, create some absolutely beautiful landforms. Alright, so this shows you how waves actually kind of make their way to the shore. They actually don't approach a straight angle. If you've ever been to the ocean and take a look at the waves, when you see them come in, they don't look straight on. They actually do look like they're coming in an angle, and you're not losing it. They are coming in an angle. That's wave refraction. So some of the landforms these guys can create are called sea stacks, which are kind of like these columns coming out of the ocean floor. Caves, cliffs. And here's a picture of a sea stack here. It's absolutely beautiful. There are actually painters out there that make their living painting these type of landforms. Look at this one here, and that's absolutely gorgeous. So beaches are actually created by waves. It's a sloping band of pebble, sands, gravel, mud at the edge of the sea. And they are composed of loose sediments deposited and moved about by the waves along the shoreline. How big those sediments are depends upon the energy of the waves striking the coast. So the type of sand you see at our beaches, the basic white sand, could be very different, say, if you go to a coast along England. Some of theirs are very almost like rocks on the shoreline. And I went up to Long Island this last spring, and the shores there were a bit different. They were more like pebble-sized beaches. And then if you go to Hawaii, the beaches may not be white, they could be black. Here's a black beach right there. And this is caused by the fact that the rocks in the area are volcanic, oftentimes black. And so when the energy of the waves pound upon them, they don't create something that's white, they create something that's black. There are also currents along the shoreline, and they can create sandbars. They drag pollution across the beaches. The longshore bar is a sandbar that forms in front of most beaches. There's one right here for you. See some people hanging out there, fishing off there. And there's your definition of longshore current. It does move sediments along the shore. It will also move pollution along the shore. Rip currents. You've seen the flags hang out on the beach, those red flags, letting you know there are rip currents going on. Their wave action produces these rip currents and flow out to sea through gaps in the longshore bar. Very dangerous to get yourself into. Most people who get caught in those currents get pulled out, and they try to swim against the current, and you're not going to win. An Olympic swimmer is not going to win. You end up tiring yourself out and oftentimes drowning. So if you ever get caught in one of these guys, you shouldn't try to swim against it. You swim parallel to the shore, and eventually you'll get out of it. And we got some pictures where you can literally see the current itself from above. You can see it there on the beach. So along with the sediments that are being moved by the longshore currents, they actually build up a lot of coastal landforms. You can get a spit. You can get a bay mouth bar. And you get something we know a lot of in North Carolina, the Barrier Islands. These are long ridges of sand or other sediment deposited shaped by the longshore current and are separated from the mainland. We have barrier islands here in North Carolina, and there's a lot of issues surrounding those beaches, from those that basically want them left alone and not have people build roads or build homes and communities on them, saying that barrier islands are changing islands due with storms in the area and are not going to be staying the same, to people who have built communities there who want those islands staying the same and are willing to spend a lot of money to keep those islands staying the same. And there's always economic issues going along with that too. The Outer Banks. They are unstable and they are temporary, and that's where you have a lot of the issues going up. Because you build a road there, you have a huge hurricane or a huge storm, and that road may be completely changed due to that, and it's going to cost a lot of money to fix. Same thing with homes and beaches there. They could literally change within a couple of days if you have a major hurricane in the area. And, you know, people who have built communities and homes there, that's money. Those communities, they go on tourism, so if things change, if there are problems getting people out there, that's money that they're losing out of their pockets. That's money that North Carolina is losing out of its pockets. So you've got this great divide between the people who say leave it alone and the people who say keep it going because this is, you know, economically feasible for us. Well, we need this. And the people who have built long-term communities in these areas. It's not just money, it's community. If you have areas that are a problem, one of the ways you can fix this is to do something called beach nourishment, and we do this too along with when we have storms. My husband was up around Curry Beach after we had some major storms, and he said it was completely different than anything he's ever seen. Half the sand was gone. There were some pipes there that you would never see. And they were going to have to do what they call beach nourishment, which basically is shipping sand in, importing it in, and dumping it so you have a beach that like you think of as a beach. And on the right-hand side there you see some pictures of beach nourishment, you know, before initial construction and after initial construction with a beach. You can build seawalls to protect beachfront properties. You can use something called a groin. And jetties. I got some pictures of those so you have a good idea of what they look like, and the whole idea is to keep things looking the same, keep the sand where it's at, keep the beach looking the same. But there are environmental issues with both of those. So do you spend the money, do you do it, or do you let nature do what nature does? You can also use something called a breakwater, and it kind of slows down the longshore current, so it can't quite move its load of sediment. One of the big issues that has been popping around is the whole idea of sea level change. It's a huge issue because if you're on a coast, that's going to change your world. If the sea creeps in, it's going to cause issues with your water supply. It's going to cause issues with your community being underwater. It's tourism issues, community issues. In the last 100 years, the global sea level has risen 10 to 15 centimeters, and it estimates it can rise between 1.5 and 3.9 millimeters a year, which doesn't seem a whole lot, but when you're looking at your kids and your grandkids, it's going to be some changes. And we think that this whole change is due to global warming. As the Earth's surface temperature rises, seawater will warm and expand, and the water flow into the oceans from the melting glaciers will increase. And we've seen those glaciers melting, and we think in the next 70 years it can go up another 30 centimeters. A lot of the low-lying areas could be underwater. New York City is actually low-lying. Louisiana, Florida, all low-lying. So how can it affect us in North Carolina? Our beaches, historic landmarks, They already had to move one of our lighthouses away from the beach because of problems with it. Wetlands, fisheries, freshwater supplies, private property, your barrier islands where you have once again, a lot of your tourism issues, roads being destroyed, wildlife habitat being destroyed, farmland being destroyed, public lands being destroyed, those beaches, Cape Hatteras National Seashore, all those things you think about when you go on vacation. More coastal erosion, more storm surge, more flooding during heavy rainfall, drainage problems, tons of issues over time. And this is an older number, but the amount is staying within around a couple inches of this. They think that the state could expect around a 39-inch sea level rise by the end of the century. All right, so you can also have some changes not just due to global warming issues, but also due to tectonic forces. Remember those word tectonic, movement of those plates. So you can have some sinking of the plates around the coastline that could cause a rise along the sea level. We actually saw that when Japan had its major earthquake. And remember we talked about how they really worked to protect themselves from tsunamis, but the one thing they didn't think about was that that area around those huge barriers are built actually sunk down deep, which caused the wall to drop, which caused the tsunami to be able to get into those communities. So you get the same sort of thing. You can actually have tectonic plates sinking along the coastline, which can cause a rise of sea level along the coast. And you can also have the exact opposite. You can have an uplift along the coast, which causes a drop in sea level. So the West Coast, California area, is being pushed up more quickly than the sea level is rising. So they're lucking out in a way.